Komi Can't Communicate has come back with a second season, and boy was that shit good. Compared to the first season, a lot of things happen to progress the snail-like pace of a story and push the boundaries of Tadano and Komi's relationship. And with the addition of new characters came more funny misunderstandings and a dude so wide, Putin is shaking right now. But you know what else the addition of new characters means? More puns and wordplay on their names, baby. If you haven't watched our last video about this exact same thing, but for season 1, you should pause the video and watch that one first. But don't close out of this video, or I'll come throttle you in your sleep. Ooh, sorry guys, something in my throat. Anyway, Komi-san, right? Just like last time, we're gonna go over all the characters that were introduced to us in the order they appeared in the anime. And also like last time, we're not experts in Japanese, nor do we claim to be. Yet. So the interpretations and meanings might not be 100% accurate. But it doesn't mean we're wrong, we're just not accurate. We don't know everything. We only know what we know. We'll first start at episode 1 with who I believe is the hard carry of season 2, my man Katai Makoto, aka Mr. Worldwide. And I'm not talking about the Cuban rapper either. The man is so wide, legend has it he one time tried to turn around and knock over 3 kids. He's a hardliner and a thug on the outside, but on the inside, all he wants to do is be good friends with his classmates and have a good time. Something I'm sure we all wanted but never got growing up because we were the weird kid at school.
You got games on your phone?
Breaking down his name, his last name Katai is a homonym for the term hard, and the kanji for his first name, Makoto, means truth or reality. Katai probably refers to his body because the man is looking absolutely bricked up, no homo. And Makoto probably refers to how true he is to himself, but nobody else can see it, except for Tadano.
We're gonna skip episodes 2, 3, and 4 and go right into 5 since they didn't introduce any new characters. But don't worry, episode 5 introduces 4 new characters, so there's one for each new episode. First we have Shiota Shota, the dude that should really think about using his hair to cover up his big ass forehead. Shiota is one of Komi's teammates for their snowball fight. His last name Shiota is probably a reference to his salty nature as Shio means salt. And his first name Shota might refer to him being a young boy. Although Shota is a pretty popular first name, so it could just be a coincidence. Next is Michisatolola, who's another one of Komi's teammates. Her last name Michisato is probably a reference to her sweet nature as Sato means sugar, and is most likely made to contrast Shiota's nature. Her first name Lola might be a reference to the Tagalog term for grandma, as she kinda does look like one, but that might be a bit of a stretch. Then there's Sai Kochi, another teammate of Komi's. The first kanji in her last name means west, and the other kanji can be written like this, which also reads as Cole and means child. Her last name is probably a reference to how she looks, with her blonde hair and tall stature, similar to that of a westerner. Probably not American though, as you can't see any semblance of a gun or a cheeseburger on her. Her first name Chi doesn't really mean anything by itself, but add the Sai part from her last name, and it becomes Chi Sai, the term for small, which is pretty ironic since she's the tallest person on their team. And last but not least is Oki Itsuya, the final member of Komi's team. His name is a joke about his height as his last name means big and his first name means when. Hey, don't worry man, great things come in small Man, you fucking suck! In episode 7 we have 2 new characters. First is Naruse Shisto, who is introduced with all of his thoughts narrated by his friend Kometani, who we'll get into next. He's the type of guy that would take "go fuck yourself" as a compliment. He believes that Komi is the only person around that he can relate to, as he's under the impression that everyone and their dogs are his fans. He even sits in the protagonist's seat, and in his mind, rightfully so, as he's deemed himself this show's handsome protagonist. If you haven't guessed already, Naruse Shisto is a next level narcissist. His name is derived from the Japanese loanword for narcissist, which really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. He has plenty of flaws stemming from his narcissistic personality, though there is an upside to it. The man has an unshakable confidence, and honestly, I wish I had 100th of the confidence that he has. Next is Chushaku Kometani. He commentates on the thoughts and actions from the characters of the show from a viewer's perspective, so he's basically a second narrator. Even the way he speaks doesn't count as sound, it's actually all narration. Earlier, we mentioned that he's Naruse's friend, but the thing is, he's probably Naruse's only real friend. So it is a bit concerning that it takes the inside of Anya to see the good in him. He can see so much, I bet he even knows if and how you wipe your ass. And that's just the start of it. Anyways, his first name, Chushaku, is a homonym for the Japanese term for a comment or to comment, and his last name, Kometani, is a play on the English word commentate. So basically, his name is the Japanese equivalent to the name Steve Stevenson.
Moving on to episode 8, we're introduced to 3 new characters, Kato Mikuni, Sasaki Ayami, and Tenjoin Ryoko. Starting with Kato Mikuni, she's one of Komi's groupmates for the school trip to Kyoto and has a passion for shogi, which we'll get into a bit later. During a school trip, it's only natural for guys and girls alike to talk about their crushes, cause why not? It's not like they'll judge or make fun of you and make you eat lunch by yourself for the rest of middle school. Assholes. Anyway, Komi's group talks about crushes, and surprisingly, Kato Mikuni is apparently a bit interested in Katai-kun, probably because he's the widest, hardest man she knows. And who doesn't like wide, hard men? Breaking down her name, the only weird thing about it is that her first name is entirely made up of kanji numerals. But with a little research, I found out that her name is actually a reference to a famous professional shogi player, Kato Hifumi. And funny enough, the show actually makes it canon that Kato Mikuni is a granddaughter of Kato Hifumi, so it's no wonder she has a strong passion for shogi. Moving on to Komi's other groupmate is Sasaki Ayami, and she has a secret she can't reveal to anyone else. She fights crime with a yo-yo. Now, I'm not one to judge, but if you get your ass handed to you by a yo-yo, you might want to start thinking about finding Truck-kun to go next life, cause that shit is embarrassing. As much as Sasaki wants to fight crime and hand out justice like the government hands out stimulus checks, she also has to balance secrecy so her identity doesn't get exposed. She almost gets discovered as she tries to help Komi during a little incident, and when she gets confronted by both Komi and Kato-san, she gets close but ends up not revealing her identity even though her disguise is worse than Clark Kent's. But looking into her name and personality, Sasaki Ayami is actually a reference to the main character of the Skeban Deka series' Asa Miyazaki. She's a delinquent high school girl that fights crime with yo-yos. Similarly, Sasaki also has a bit of experience with yo-yos as she's competed in the World Championship yo-yo competition and won 3rd place. One of Asa Miyazaki's trademarks is her patented cherry blossom on her yo-yo, which you can also see on Sasaki Ayami's yo-yo as well. You might have noticed this without me saying it already, but Sasaki Ayami is just an anagram of the name Asa Miyazaki, and that's all about there is to it. And the last character of episode 8 is Tenjoin Ryoko. She's the tour guide for Komi's class, and as the kids would say, based. Going right into her name, her last name Tenjoin can be written like this and means tour conductor or tour guide, but if you Google translate it, you get Alexis Rhodes, which is a character from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX whose Japanese name is Tenjoin Asuka. Her first name Ryoko is pretty simple as it's just a play on words on the term for trips, Ryoko. I don't think anybody could come up with a more fitting name for her than tour guide trip.
Before we skip into the wordplay in episode 11, I just wanted to talk about the quality of the art in episodes 10 and 11. What happened? You guys remember the good old days of season 1 where the only thing Komi had to worry about were her communication skills? Now in season 2, she has to worry about having enough money to finish the damn season. Those last 2 episodes were drawn so egregiously bad, Komi can't communicate became Komi can't get enough budget. But thank God the animators picked themselves up for episode 12, cause damn, that was a good finale. Going back to the characters, first we have Sato Amami, one of the girls that would bend over backwards for anyone and everyone. She's for the streets, as they say. But don't get it twisted, she's not a hoe, she's just for the community. It's different, trust me. Her name is pretty straightforward, as her last name Sato means sugar, as we previously mentioned, and her first name Amami means sweet flavor. Her name just emphasizes how sweet of a person she is, as she'll even take on 100,000 yen debt for a friend. Cause damn, if I was in debt, my friends would tell me to start sucking dick for money.
Alright, whose dick am I sucking first? I'll suck them all.
Moving on, the next 2 characters are Maeda Hoshio and Ushiro Eiko. I'll talk about them together since they didn't have much screen time, and their names are pretty simple. Their last names are just plays on words for their seating positions in class. Maeda sits in front of Komi because Mae means front or before, and Ushiroda sits in the back of the class behind Komi because Ushiro means back or behind. Now, if you notice in Maeda's intro, you'll see written in katakana something that looks like a middle name. I guess you could call it that, but since Japanese people don't have middle names, we'll call it his hobby. It reads, Jukujo Ski, which literally means he likes MILFs or older women. My man has some refined taste, but he can be out of pocket sometimes, especially when you remember he asked Sato for her mom's panties. There were a couple of names that we didn't really understand or we couldn't really confirm what their pun or play on words were, so we left them out. They'll be in the description if you guys want to take a look and try to figure it out for yourselves. But that's gonna be it for us today. So until next time, peace.